You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Good morning, good morning. We talk the whole night through. Good morning to you and you and you.
Wow.
That's
See,
it.
Everybody's just waiting and waiting and waiting.
Are they?
And you saved it to the middle of the week.
Yes.
How
Wednesday.
great. Thank you so much.
It is a good morning on Wednesday.
Wow. Yeah, because you're halfway done
With recording.
with the week.
No, I'm making fun of ourselves with recording.
That was great, Chris.
Thank you so much.
I mean, people love you and they love your singing. They love it. Do people comment on your singing,
I
Chris?
believe there is truth in everything you say.
They do. Yeah, there is.
Yes.
Everything I say is true.
Yes. Everything I say is true.
Yeah, there is truth in everything you say.
I think you just said a falsity.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. So everybody knows that you're an incredible singer.
Oh, geez.
They also know that on Fridays you're mad about something.
Yeah.
And they also know that you're a movie buff.
They do.
Those are the things that we know about Zarbo.
Yeah.
And that you love your family.
Yeah. Somebody saw me when we did the groundbreaking, and he says, "Hey, you're the jingle guy." I was like, "Oh, I think you meant Bible guy."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, yeah, Bible guy."
Yep. So being a movie buff,
yes,
we're going to do a movie buff quiz.
Uh-huh.
And I am going to see if you can guess what movie I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I always get nervous about
and I'm
this.
only
I feel
using
like my reputation's on
3
the line.
words.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you 3 clues.
That's really hard.
And you have to be able to guess the movie.
Okay.
Now, they're well-known movies.
That's good.
Okay. But the words aren't easy.
And it says to make it more difficult, Jeff will give 1 word at a time.
Yes. Ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Saturday.
Saturday Night Fever.
Detention.
Breakfast Club.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. I was also going to say Misfits.
Oh, Misfits. Okay. Hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that
Saturday Detention? I got it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud of myself on that one. Of course, it's one of the most famous movies in the world.
Yes. Here's the next one.
Okay.
Build
it. If you build it, we will come. Field of Dreams.
Yep. Build it.
No, come on.
Yeah.
That was it?
Yes.
It was just the word build? Oh, come on.
Yeah. Build it and they will come, isn't it? What?
If you build it, they will come. I can't believe it.
So the 3 words were build, it, and come. So you got it on build.
Funny.
Yep. Here we go.
That is so funny.
Here you go.
One of the best ones I've ever done.
You will not get this one on the first try.
Okay.
Boy.
Boy meets girl.
No.
Boys in the Hood.
Orca.
Free Willy.
Yep. There
Orca.
you go.
Yeah, there's only so many movies with a boy and an orca. In fact,
and then I was going to say Captivity.
Maybe 1.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
Here we go.
All right. I'm 3.
Number 4.
4.
Beauty.
Beauty and the Beast.
Pageant.
Beauty pageant. Miss Congeniality.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. I was just thinking, what's the most famous beauty pageant movie out there? And it's with Sandra Bullock.
Right. Here you go. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Here's the last one. You have the opportunity
this is going
to go
well.
5 for 5.
This is going well for me.
Yes. Ready? Irish.
Oh, whoa, Irish. What's that movie? Far and Away.
Football.
Irish football. Notre Dame. I don't.
People are screaming this one at the screen. You know that, right?
I don't know what this is.
Underdog. It's one of the greatest movies in history.
Rudy.
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh. Yes, but thank goodness you got Miscongeniality.
Right.
That was.
Hey, of course you're going to say that. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for pointing out that I missed the football movie, but I got the beauty pageant movie. That was very appropriate of you. Hey, by the way, I forgot the Irish part. The Irish part really threw me off.
Yeah. Well, it's the Fighting Irish. Football.
Well, I didn't remember that part.
Boy.
Do you know how many times I've seen Rudy?
Like probably millions.
No, twice.
Oh, okay.
I've only seen it like twice.
How many times have you seen Miscongeniality?
I don't want to answer that question.
Field of Dreams. Have you seen Field of Dreams?
Oh, I've seen Field of Dreams 15 times at least. Good. I've seen Miss Congeniality. Breakfast Club like 20 times.
Okay.
I bet you I've seen Miss Congeniality because my daughter, it's one of her favorite movies.
Yes.
So she would pop it on, and so my wife loves it too. So I probably have seen that 10 times.
So it's not a good look to blame your kids for stuff.
I blame The Bachelor. I blame The Bachelor on them. They would have Bachelor watching parties. And so for a while there, I agreed to watch it with Sarah because that was our tradition as father-daughter. And so consequently, I sort of knew all of the Bachelor people.
You were into it.
Well, and then when she moved away, obviously it stopped.
Did you know I have never watched... And I don't know that I watched a minute, but I've never watched an episode.
Guess what?
Any of those.
You are the better for it.
Yeah.
It is about as trash, worthless as anything.
Okay. So, and it's just,
it's awful. It's every part of it's bad.
So, talking about bad.
And by the way, it's not. Oh, okay. Well, first of all, it's not bad as in like dirty.
Yeah.
It's bad as in like everything about the way God created to love is violated.
Right.
That's what I was meaning.
Yeah. And you're a delight, by the way. I just want you to know it's so much fun.
Making fun of me?
Yeah, picking on you. I love.
Hey,
I love
picking on you is a delight for me. That's what you
and for our listeners. What
you just said.
Yep.
That's so great.
Yes, I like it.
Hey, and you said, speaking of what? What did you say? What was your transition?
I don't remember. What were you saying? You said something
I interrupted
about
you.
Speaking of.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Try it again.
You said something about you said some word about how bad the show is. And I can't remember. And I was talking about
I interrupted you. Yeah, because I had to clarify.
Yeah.
When I said so bad, it wasn't like dirty bad.
Yeah. So we're just talking about bad news here, or bad experience, bad something. Talking about bad, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, that was it. That was
bad news.
Yes.
Bad news. You remember we're reading the book of Hezekiah or of Isaiah, and Isaiah was a contemporary of the king Hezekiah. Hezekiah was a good guy.
Yep.
Right. He went back and started doing the good things again.
Yep.
Rebuilding the temple and opening up worship and tearing down the altars to the other gods and all those kinds of things. But Assyria is coming. They're the most powerful empire in the world, and they're coming to wipe out Jerusalem. They're getting ready to just destroy them. And here's what it says in Isaiah chapter 37. They wind up being sieged. Jerusalem. They're completely besieged by the Assyrian army, and the Assyrians were ruthless. And it says this: when King Hezekiah heard their report, because his generals come in and they give him information. When the king Hezekiah heard their report, he tore his clothes and put on burlap and went into the temple of the Lord. And he sent Eliakim, the palace administrator, Shebna, the court secretary, and the leading priests, all dressed in burlap, to the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz. They told him, "This is what King Hezekiah says. Today is a day of trouble, insults, and disgrace. It is like when a child is ready to be born, but the mother has no strength to deliver the baby."
Wow.
Perhaps the Lord your God has heard the Assyrian chief of staff sent by the king to defy the living God, and will punish him for his words. Oh, pray for those of us who are left. After King Hezekiah's officials delivered the king's message to Isaiah, the prophet replied, "Say to your master, this is what the Lord says. Do not be disturbed by this blasphemous speech against me from the Assyrian king's messengers. Listen, I myself will move against him, and the king will receive a message that he is needed at home, so he will return to his land, where I will have him killed with a sword." Meanwhile, the Assyrian chief of staff left Jerusalem and went to consult the king of Assyria, who had left Lachish and was attacking Libnah. Soon afterward, King Sennacherib received word that King Tirhakah of Ethiopia was leading an army to fight against him. Before leaving to meet the attack, he sent messengers back to Hezekiah in Jerusalem with this message. "This message is for King Hezekiah of Judah. Don't let your God, in whom you trust, deceive you with promises that Jerusalem will not be captured by the king of Assyria. You know perfectly well what the kings of Assyria have done wherever they have gone. They have completely destroyed everyone who stood in their way. Why should you be any different? Have the gods of other nations rescued them? Such nations as Gozan and Haran, Rezeph, and the people of Eden who were in Tel Assar? My predecessors destroyed them all. What happened to the king of Hamath and the king of Arpad? What happened to the kings of Sepharvaim?" Is that how you say it?
Wow.
Good one. Sepharvaim, Hena, and Iva. After Hezekiah received the letter from the messengers and read it, he went up to the Lord's temple and spread it out before the Lord. And Hezekiah prayed this prayer before the Lord: O Lord of heaven's armies, God of Israel, you are enthroned between the mighty cherubim. You alone are God of all the kingdoms of the earth. You alone created the heavens and the earth. Bend down, O Lord, and listen. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see. Listen to Sennacherib's words of defiance against the living God. It is true, Lord, that the kings of Assyria have destroyed all these nations, and they have thrown down the gods of these nations into the fire and burned them. But of course the Assyrians could destroy them. They were not gods at all, only idols of wood and stone, shaped by human hands. Now, O Lord our God, rescue us from his power. Then all the kingdoms of the earth will know that you alone, O Lord our God. There you go.
There it is.
There it is.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
Wow, that is a heck of a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Hezekiah's proclamation, right? And he says, you alone, oh Lord. And by the way, have you noticed the heavy references of saying, oh Lord of heaven's armies?
Yes.
Because it's not everywhere in the Bible. But it seems to be like a season, right?
Yeah.
Where it's used constantly. It just seems
David writes it a lot. Yeah, so he wrote about. So that's in like the King James. It would say the Lord of Hosts.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah, the Lord of Hosts.
I'm not sure I knew that. Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
So in the more modern translations, like the New Living Translation, it'll say the Lord of Heaven's armies, which is even cooler.
Oh, yeah, that's even cooler.
Lord of Hosts. We don't think of hosts.
Right.
So it's just a little bit more clear when you say Lord of Heaven's armies.
That's really great. Mm-hmm. You are enthroned between the mighty cherubim.
Yeah.
What a word picture right there, right?
Yep.
You alone are God of all the kingdoms of the earth. You alone created the heavens and the earth. I just love it.
So here's what happens, just to kind of, because Hezekiah goes to God and says, hey, did you hear what they just said about you? Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's funny because in King Sennacherib's mindset, he knows his gods aren't real either, right? So he's mocking Hezekiah. Probably his faith and his religion was a tool to manage his people.
Sure.
Right? So he's mocking Hezekiah in this story, by the way, shows up in 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and in Isaiah. So this chunk shows up in 3 different passages, and they all describe it the same way. But there is this moment where the chief of staff for Sennacherib, the king, comes and he goes, what makes you so confident? What are you trusting in that makes you so confident? Do you think that mere words can substitute for military skill and strength? Who are you counting on? Why have you rebelled against me? Right? Are you leaning on Egypt? Perhaps you say to me, we're trusting in the Lord our God. But isn't he the one who was insulted by Hezekiah? Didn't Hezekiah tear down his shrines and altars? So he's misunderstanding what Hezekiah did when he cleaned up things in the areas, in the groves and stuff. And he starts mocking God and going, where's all your faith? Where's this coming from? Dude, don't you know we wipe out everybody?
Right.
Right. And that's why Hezekiah goes to the temple and says, God, did you hear what they've been saying about you? Mm-hmm. So where the King Sennacherib has this confidence in his own military strength and his strategy, he's basically, that's the speech he's giving.
It reminds me of is what we're about to get into probably next week, which is Nebuchadnezzar, who says, then who will save you from my hand? Right? Yeah. Same thing.
I had a friend, he was just a giant of a man, even as a young 20-year-old, 18, 19, 20-year-old guy. I've never known anybody stronger, just naturally stronger than him. And so I was, believe it or not, back in the day, just this little skinny guy, but I had a smart mouth. And I was sassing off to this guy who was kind of just being a jerk. And this guy starts like cussing me and saying bad things about me. And then you ever hear somebody say, you and all your friends?
Yeah.
And I turned around to Steve and I said, did you hear what he just said about you?
You and all your friends.
Right. So he was saying all kinds of mean things to me because I had been sassing off to him and was threatening to fight him or whatever. And then when he puffed up, he didn't back down. He puffs up. And then he says all these really horrible things about me. But then he ends it with you and all your friends. And I turned around to Steve and said, right? That's kind of the feeling I have with Hezekiah.
Yeah.
Because the King Sennacherib, if I'd read all those other things, King Sennacherib says all these things about you're a sissy and you guys can't fight me and you think you're going to be able to stand up against the kings of Assyria. We've wiped everybody else out and your God can't do anything about it. And Hezekiah didn't take offense. He just turns like, God, did you hear what he just said about you?
Right. It's really funny.
Right. Well, it shows you the reality of his faith and the lack of faith that Sennacherib has in his gods.
Yeah.
Because his faith is in his ability to wage war.
Yeah,
so,
in the Second Chronicles 32 version, or record, I should say, it says, "This is what King Sennacherib of Assyria says. What are you trusting in that makes you think you can survive my siege of Jerusalem?"
Right.
And it's just it's that arrogance that says, like, what are you thinking? Like, you're up against me. Yeah, it's a total. You're right.
Right.
Even though he had his religion in his group, it probably was just a way to control people. It's a necessary thing, right? Yeah, allow people to have their religion. It's a control mechanism, right. Which, by the way, there's no shortage of, right? Yeah. There's no shortage of people hijacking religious
100%.
Things for their own agenda.
So you see Hezekiah in his humility, he goes to God multiple times, 2 different times, and humbly says, God, I don't have anywhere else to turn but to you. And what are we going to do if you don't come and rescue us? And Hezekiah is aware of the fact that he has no hope. There's no help. And that's not a terrible place to be.
No.
When you finally realize, you know what, my only chance is with God. And
well, it's terrible emotionally.
Well, it's scary at the moment, but you're never closer. Right. The Bible says God draws near to the brokenhearted in that moment. Right. God is close to you. You might feel like he's far away, but that's when you're the closest to God, when you have nowhere else to turn.
It's almost like a forcing of dependence in a lot of ways, right? Nobody wants to be there, but when you are there, that's what you mean by it. It's not a bad place to be. I've been there. Right.
Oh, me too.
We've been there, right? Yeah. So it's hard. It's difficult sometimes, but so I got a good buddy, Mark, who always says, when you lead a church and when you create a service, and when you create an Easter service, whenever you do anything, he says, you got to put yourself in the spot to where if God doesn't show up, you're going to be toast.
Right.
That's the truth. I love the way he says that. He says, when you put yourself in a spot where you're thinking, God, if you don't show up, we're toast. He said, that's the place you want to be.
So then, the really famous name here, King Tirhakah of Ethiopia. Everybody knows about that guy, right? As a matter of fact, for the most part, people would not have known his name except for the fact that it's in the Bible, right? But then, this is one of the reasons why I love these Life Application Study Bibles. You see that little note down there on the left-hand side at the bottom of the page?
Statue.
It turns out they've found reliefs and designs and even words that mention this guy. So once again, archaeology always proving even the most obscure of things. God uses this Ethiopian king to come up and decide he's going to kind of mess around with Sennacherib while Sennacherib is surrounded Jerusalem. So Sennacherib now has to leave his intent to invade Jerusalem to defend himself against this pretty obscure Tirhakah king, right?
Right.
And so God already begins to maneuver this way. So this is the guy that was saying, hey, who are you trusting in? Hezekiah is mad about that, and God says, you know what, I'm going to send him back to Syria. He's going to get himself killed, right? So God goes ahead and wipes that guy out, but then sends this Tirhakah king to come and fight against him. And then then Sennacherib's people have to say, hey, listen, don't let your God in whom you trust deceive you with promises that Jerusalem will not be captured by the king of Assyria. You know perfectly well what we've done. And so, I think the devil does that to us a lot. Where he tries to say, hey, don't believe that fairy tale, right? God's not going to look out for you or whatever. But this is the beginning of the end for Sennacherib's people. They wind up getting wiped out later on, and God gives deliverance, right? But he uses Isaiah to encourage and challenge and even reinforce Hezekiah that, hey, God is going to take care of you. And Hezekiah's final statement is, yeah, hey, what he said is true. They did wipe out other gods, but guess what? They weren't real gods. They were just stone and wood. Right. And we're trusting the true God. So either your God is the real God, the God of heaven, or he's not. And he's your only hope. And God delivered him.
Yeah. And you know what? I often run into people who tell the story about them worshiping like false idols. You remember my buddy Eddie, that Christmas story that we did? Yeah. And he was involved in the Santeria, and where they have statues and they have all these different kinds of things.
It's a Catholicized voodoo. So it's essentially the West African people brought voodoo to Cuba, and then the Cuban Spaniards, slave owners, forced Catholicism on them, and all they did is they blended the two and used Catholic words to keep doing their voodoo. Yeah,
which by the way is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, blood sacrifices, the whole 9 yards. It's all full on witchcraft.
It's witchcraft,
yeah.
and
it's the prevailing religion of Cuba.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you walk around Cuba and you're going door to door, knocking on the doors, telling people about Jesus, you're seeing statues, let's just say, like, for instance, I even hate to say this out loud, but it's like the Virgin Mary statue, and it's got like black stuff running from its eyes, right? And you're like, and of course, me growing up Catholic, you're used to seeing, statues, for instance, of Mary, but not with black stuff running out of its eyes. Right. And that's one of like 30 statues that are just
and they make sacrifices to them, and they're doing witchcraft.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that to say, my buddy Eddie had dabbled in that and even said that there are evil powers in that.
Yeah.
But then finally recognizing that none of that is going to lead to anything good, because what he ended up saying in the video that we did with him is he said, I realized that there wasn't a single leader in this false religion who ever had blessing or prosperity or success or even lived, right? Because a lot of them just died. And so he said, so everything is torture, everything is demise, everything is, and so he goes, so this quest for power that he was trying to obtain through these false gods, he said he just recognized they weren't the one true God. Right. And so there was this moment where he was like, they are statues. Right. They are just wood. Yeah. Right. And that there's the one true God. This is what Hezekiah is saying. Yeah. Right.
100%.
Or Isaiah. Right.
So this is Hezekiah. Hezekiah's talking. Isaiah was just communicating and helping him through this time. So this is Hezekiah's
response. Right.
Yep. That's right. But it all comes down to this. So when I was saying it's not a bad place to be, the difficulties in life can feel like they're the biggest thing and the most important thing until you realize that this life is so unbelievably temporary. The more you get an eternal view of your existence, the more you go from thinking that this is it, and every day and every problem is the biggest day and the biggest problem, to realizing that all of this is only dress rehearsal for eternity. James tells us, Peter tells us, our life is like just a little poof of steam. It doesn't last very long on this earth, but we're going to spend eternity somewhere. When you begin to have an eternal view, the problems here aren't so big. When you begin to realize that, this is a broken world, sin has happened here. We live in desolation, and we're trying to carve out some kind of paradise in this desolate place. Yeah. Well, and God has
the curse.
God has perfection for us coming. Then our current circumstances are just circumstances, but this isn't home, and we're not supposed to be permanent here. And so instead, anything that drives us to be closer to God, builds our faith more, is a good thing. It's not a bad thing when we begin to see it that way, right? Where then we run to God like a child runs to his mom and dad. I can remember thunder outside, boom, and my little kids come running to me in the moment. Were they in danger? No. But they came running to me in that moment. They'd cry in the middle of the night, whatever. You'd hold them. It turned out that thunder wasn't actually a bad thing for them, but it was good that they ran to daddy in that moment, right? And so this is what you're finding the king doing. He's saying, you alone are God of all the kingdoms of the earth. You alone created the heavens and the earth. And then he says, and this is appropriate, bend down, O Lord, and listen. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see. Listen to Sennacherib's words of defiance against the living God, right? And so he's inviting God, God, I need you to help me out. Would you bend down? Would you listen? And I think about that, the thunder rolls and the little kids come running to daddy, and then they're like, hold me, daddy, right? And that's what he's doing in this moment. And so you have one king who's puffing up, being a tough guy, and God wipes him out. You have another king who humbles himself and runs to him and says, God, I need you to bend down and help me. And that's what God does, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty great thing. And you wind up seeing God do incredible things in Hezekiah's life because that's always his posture.
Yeah, and the words of Hezekiah remind me of David, where he says, "Who is this Philistine that defies the armies of the living God?" Remember?
That's right.
And that's what he's really doing. Hezekiah is saying, listen to his words that defy against the living God.
That's right.
It's a similar statement.
Yeah. So that might be your prayer today. Just bend down low, Lord. Right. I need you.
That's great. That's great. Well, hey, that's a great place to end. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow on the Bible Guys.